What up, y'all? Mr. Zoo Nation, aka Savage Armor Jim Giraffe. Welcome to another episode of the Megacolony Trap House. Today we got a special one. So we're gonna have some fun today. And I want to get like a little bit more personal. Today we're gonna be doing this thing where I'm gonna be talking about the clans that I normally use. And I'm going to basically talk about like what I like about it, my favorite grade 3 from there, and also why I decided to play the clan and everything else. But I wanted to make this a three-parter, so this is going to be part one. The other two parts are going to be, the second one is going to be the clans that I wanted to play, but either not I got a chance to play it or I did play it and it just never became like my main or anything else like that. So my other favorite clans that I'm not playing. The last one is going to be just the ones that I either didn't really like that much, didn't really care for, just absolutely hate. So that's going to be part three. So if you want to see like the other two parts, like whenever they get released, you already know, hit the subscribe button, do whatever. But anyway, before I start, I want to explain how I got into the game so you can understand the time frame that I'm going to be doing all of these clans for. So, the introduction. I started the game back in mid 2014. The reason why I decided to join this game and start to play it in general is because one of my friends, who is now one of my teammates, actually got me into the game because he was working in a card shop that sadly no longer exists. At the same time, before playing this game, I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was at that particular point where I just had the last straw. Around the time that I stopped playing, when I stopped playing that and started playing Vanguard, was around Necros format. Because I feel like, here's the thing, I was playing like semi-competitive. Well, no, I was playing competitive. And my thing was I didn't really have like the top tier decks. I was always like the budget rogue player. So when it got up, so as like the years started going by, and when it got up to that particular point, the game started becoming not only just a pay to win game, but it just started becoming like 3 deck formats, to a point where both the anti-meta no longer existed, and the rogue deck and the rogue meta no longer existed either. So it was like I couldn't really do nothing else about it. At that particular point, I was just getting bodied about everybody at the shop who like can afford the Necros deck, which was retarded in my honest opinion. But it's whatever. Overall, I decided to get into the game. Loved it ever since. I still play Yu-Gi-Oh! From time to time because they did finally fix all that and they kind of realized that they were going down a dark path. But at the same time, as I was starting the game of Vanguard, I looked at all the clans, what they do, and everything else, and I decided to write down all the ones that I wanted to eventually try, and of course, like that search for that main deck or anything else. So, with that being said, let's get this started. Tachikaze is one of the clans that I like the most, and it's obviously going to be the first clan I'm going to be talking about. The reason why I decided to choose Tachi was a few things. One is dinosaurs with guns. Like that's pretty funny. It's interesting, and that just has nothing but testosterone on it. Like just as much as Spike Brothers, if you really think about it. But outside of that, another reason I did like the gameplay of it, which I know like some people are gonna be like, well, don't they play just like Shadow Paladins back in the day? Which you're kind of right. It did have a similar playstyle to Shadow Paladins as far as like sacrificing your own units. But I feel like Tachikaze did it slightly better. And it was just a simple fact that they weren't getting like either enough support or they didn't get like the support that they needed around the OG era Vanguard. And basically the reason why I say that is because like unlike Shadow Paladins, they can actually Tachikaze can actually recover their units. Like some of the units that gets retired can either come back to the hand, they can either come back to the field so you can get more attacks or anything else like that. And they were just all a bunch of crazy wonky combos that you can do with Tachikaze that sadly didn't get as explored as it should have, like around that particular time. But honestly, another reason why is kind of sort of like a little bit like lore wise, I guess, if you really think about it. Like when Shadow Paladins did it, they did it just to be edgy. But like Tachikaze, on the other hand, did it because it was survival of the fittest. If you couldn't pull your own, you just gonna get sizacked. And sometimes, especially when they come back, they're like, "No, nigga, we ain't done yet." I mean, it's just basically as simple as that. If I had to say like if I had to compare both clans to like movie characters, Tachikaze will be Bishop from Juice, and Shadow Paladins will be Buddy from Incredibles. Not Syndrome, Buddy. So, with that being said, I want to say I started the clan like around the beginning of 2015, like a little bit before the G era started, like that little month and a half we had before like the G era started. And the deck that I started out with was the Legion, because you already know Legion format and everything else, and that Legion was actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, if I actually had the chance, I'll probably like rebuild it again. But sadly, that really wasn't my most favorite grade 3 from the clan. And as much as I like Anger Blader, and as much as I like the Giga Rex, the new one, and Dark Rex, and all this other stuff, I feel like my most favorite grade 3 has to go to Raptor Colonel. Because I like the artwork to it. It's like a little laser. It looks like he's like shooting lasers at everybody. And then it kind of reminds me of that Metalocalypse episode when they had like the lasers, and whenever the lasers touched somebody, they were like legitimately like cutting people in half and shit. Like that's what it kind of reminded me of. I also do like the effect that it gets the power of the 2 units that he retires. So like it makes him a little bit more powerful. And sadly, it's sadly that he didn't get a chance to get reprinted, not reprinted though, but remade in the V era either. So that's like the sad thing about it. But I'm still hoping that we do that. But outside of that, man, I like Tachi's. It's a pretty interesting clan. Sadly, Anger Blader, my boy, had to get massacred in that ban list though. But hopefully, whatever stride that they get in Premium Collection 2020 will bring that same energy back. So, with that being said, that's what I have for Tachikaze. The next one I want to talk about is Nubatama. I love Nubatama. Partially because I like ninjas, and before anybody asks, no, I'm not an retard, but I do love ninjas. I do think that ninjas look cool and all that other stuff. Especially when since I grew up in like in the 90s when like ninjas was everywhere. Like you had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you had the Three Ninjas, you had Power Rangers and all this other stuff. I mean, ninjas was like basically everywhere. So of course, like I will eventually get accustomed to that. You know, you got Ninja Gaiden and all that other stuff. But yeah, you have like all that, and they're also Dragon Ninjas, which is also a plus. But the thing I like the most is their mechanic. Oh my god. Discarding your opponent's hand is one of the most interesting things and one of the most terrifying things to look at the same time. It's terrifying because you know eventually you're just going to run into that Nubatama player who's just going to be using the exact same tactics as you're going to be using, and then all of those players that you discard them hands, you're going to realize that the pain that you were making them suffer from, and you're going to suffer that exact same pain eventually. And when it happens, that regret comes in. It was the exact same way with the domination mechanic. Like when domination was a thing, I love using that mechanic. But when somebody else is using it, man, that was like that regret comes in hella quick. You start rethinking life choices and everything else in between. It's retarded. But what makes it even worse is now that Narukami is doing it like 10 times better. and a lot more consistent, which is bullshit in my honest opinion. But anyway, I love Nubatama. I like both of the mechanics, especially like mixing them up together. So how did I start with Nubatama? Let's see. Oh, I remember now. I started when Technical Booster 1 came out. Because you see, Nubatama wasn't really that represented in the original era of Vanguard. And they hardly had any support around that time. And when Technical Booster 1 came out, that's when I started playing it because of a few things. One, like I said, I was a Tachikaze player, but my friend who got me into the game was also a Spike Brothers player. So me and him did a split, like about like 6 boxes. And after we got our stuff, we were trying to figure out what to do with the Nubatama stuff. And I was like, yo, I go to card shops like a lot more often, and I'm there a lot more than you are. So what I'm going to do is try to see if I can sell some of this and get whatever money back we can. Sadly, that never happened because, for one, the card shop we were working at really wasn't accepting stuff like that, and two, a lot of people really wasn't looking for it either. So we're just sitting on like one Shiranui and like one of the PGs and a bunch of commons and rares. So I decided to just take a bunch of the commons and rares and make my own little deck, which was the Shura Stealth Dragon Legion. And it actually worked for me for about a while. I mean, it was sad that I had to like slowly gain up like more and better strides and whatnot, but outside of that, they still worked pretty decently. So eventually I did that, and then went up to the new Shiranuis, like when the domination thing came out and all this other stuff. But ever since then, I love the mechanic. I love the clan and everything else. It was kind of sad to see that they never got a chance to spend time on After Image, which is something I definitely would have loved to see. But you already know they wanted to do the whole domination thing and like kind of forget about the whole After Image stuff. So it was kind of sad to see that it didn't get developed as much as it should have, though. But we did get made up like within the V series of the game. Which, speaking of the V series of the game, my most favorite grade 3 is one of the V series cards. Can you guess? Alright, if you guess Jamie Congo, you're correct. My god, Jamie Congo is a dick. Like, think about this. Your opponent has 15 cards in hand. They just like drew all their cards because they had like a good turn, getting all them triple drives and all the other stuff. And then you just hit them with Jamie Congo. That 15 card plus hand goes to 4. Well, if you have a grade 3 in the soul. If you don't, then it goes to 6. But you see what I mean, though. You see that whole big ass hand that they have just go down into the discard pile, which was actually pretty funny to me, in my honest opinion. I'm not gonna lie. But again, like I said before, when somebody else did it to you, you felt that pain. I'm not gonna lie. But man, like, downing your opponent's hand to 4 was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And not only that, using the crow at the same time, where they have to bounce back something and then they have no hand whatsoever. I know it's bitch made though, but that shit is still funny as shit. Again, very regretful when somebody else do that shit to me though, but now that we got Hanzo, I don't think we really have too much to worry about anymore. Yeah, Jamie Congo is just that dude is OD. I'm not gonna lie. So enough with Nubatama. Guess what my other favorite clan is that I'm playing as well. I'll give you a hint. It's also ninjas. Murakuma. Man, what I gotta say about Murakuma? Again, I like ninjas. That's another reasons why I decided to play it. But now I guess you're kind of wondering why you decided to play both of the ninja clans. And my answer to you is this: why the fuck not? That my answer to that to you guys is why the fuck not? Might as well. That was originally the plan, but I tend to like it a lot more because of the whole mechanic of cloning your stuff and everything else. Well, that was how the original Murakumos is like was with shadow clone and everything else. But I also have to say this, and I'm not saying this because it's one of the clans that I mainly use, but Shadow Stitch has to be the best keyword in the game. I'm sorry. I know like it didn't really get explored as often as it should have, and it could have been like a way better mechanic if Bushiroad developed it a little bit more. But just the fact that your opponent is just the fact that you're putting up pressure on your opponent from your opponent guarding your units, that shit is funny. I'm not gonna lie, that shit is funny. um Seeing that your opponent guards your attack while they're at fifth damage and then you plus off of that is actually pretty funny. Like, I've never really seen a mechanic like that where here's the thing, you normally have units that has on hits effects, and normally when normally when your opponent needs something, your let me see. Normally when your opponent is thinking about blocking an attack, they usually ask, does it have an on hit skill? But it's funny because with Murakumo, now you got to think of, does it have not even an on hit skill? What do you call it? Like a non on hit skill? Nah, that sounds stupid. Not a non on hit skill. I want to say like maybe like damn, what would be like a good one? Because I usually just says it has a non-on hit skill, but I feel like there should be like another word for it, but we'll get back to that later. Anyway, Shadow Stitch had to be one of probably the most interesting keyword in the game, and I have to say is basically the best one. I know there's like I know there's like better ones too. Like, don't get me wrong, but as far as like creativity goes and everything else and how a deck functions, Shadow Stitch is like the best one, like hands down. But I guess with all that, you're trying to figure out what my most favorite grade 3 is, and my most favorite grade 3 is definitely Hiyaki. And actually, Hiyaki is the unit that I started out with too. I started out with Murakumo like a little bit after the G era, but before Technical Booster 2. So yeah, I want to say like it's sometime like early 2016, late 2015 and whatnot. And I know sure Yuki's a pretty cool unit, Yasui's a pretty good unit. I mean, even like in the V era, you got like the new Dueling Dragons in Baku, and you got Hyuga though. But man, Hiyaki is an interesting looking card, both artwork wise and like how it plays a little bit, where it not only clones itself though, but it also has the ability to like get like extra copies from the deck. I mean, from the battlefield back to your hand, or from the deck to the battlefield and stuff like that. And I was kind of happy that he got in the V era because when they were doing that, I was expecting it. It's just sad that there's not really any support for him. So he's kind of like just second fiddle to Hyuga, which is pretty sad because I like his effect where he gives himself plus 10, him and every other copy of himself like plus 10k. That's amazing to me in my honest opinion. So it's sad that we have to see that happen though, but it was kind of worth it. But man, outside of that, I like Murakumo. I wish it kind of like went back to more like the Shadow Stitch thing. Like, hopefully, when they get the support the next time, like we not only get Yasui, but we get more like Shadow Stitch based support. That would be actually pretty interesting. But with that being said, let's move on to the next clan. So we got 3 clans down, 3 to go. Next one I wanted to talk about is Neo Nectar. I love my flowers. but that's not really the reason why I actually played it. The reason why I actually played Neo Nectars was because um I did like the artwork in it. I will admit, I think Neo Nectar, in my honest opinion, has the best artwork in the game. But it's not just the artwork that actually allowed that was the reason why I actually played it. I actually liked a few of the playstyle as well, especially Musketeers. Man, I was hella determined to play Musketeers when I started this game. And sadly, they were pretty expensive. It got up to a point where I made this Neo Nectar deck out of commons and rares and was using all of the common and rare Musketeers that was out at the time, including that grade 3 that's only a 10k that increases his attack by like 2 or 3k or something like that, and the tulips, the turnip, the tulips, or however the hell you say it. However the hell you say it. You know, like the one that you counterblast one, when on place, you counterblast one, damage yourself, and then you can recover damage at the end phase. Like those two particular ones, the grade 1 and the grade 2, I was running them. I was that determined to play Musketeers. I felt a little complete when they came out with the Legions. I didn't get a chance to play the licorice one for a long time, like the black licorice one. But I did play the other two, like the more cheaper ones. Martina, that's now like a very interesting grade 3, especially on Rearguard Circle when you calling from the deck. And then the one that has the 10k vanilla as like a, what is it, the mate and whatnot. I was running both of them and was actually doing pretty decent. So that basically means that you already know who my favorite grade 3 is. It's Cecilia. Cecilia has to be probably one of my most favorite grade 3s, not in just Neo Nectars, but in the game in general. I felt like she was a little bit game changing. For a prime example, like one of her effects was like recovering cards from the drop zone back to the bottom of the deck, which was actually pretty cool in my honest opinion, because when she came out, Legions didn't exist, so there really wasn't that many cards in the game that allowed you to recover stuff from the drop zone. Sadly, she was a 10k, so it was pretty hard to use her after a while, and it was pretty hard to get a hold of like a few copies because she was pretty expensive at the time I started the game, sadly. But I did eventually get some of the I did eventually get like the Cecilias. I did eventually get like the Strides and everything else. And at the same time, even the new one is actually pretty good. Like, I did see like a few people try to play Cecilia in Asha, which, here's the thing. Speaking of Asha, don't get me wrong. I actually like Asha. Asha's a pretty cool unit and whatnot. It's complicated. So I didn't always get a chance to really play Asha for a couple of reasons. The first reason was, like I mentioned earlier in the video before, when I started this game, your boy was broke. And Asha was pretty hard to keep maintenance of because she would get support often, and a lot of the support was actually pretty expensive to get, especially after Soul Striking especially after Soul Striking hits the Supreme. And don't even get me started on the Try 3 set. The Try 3 set where she was like legitimately like $40+ just to get, just because they were short printing that whole set. And I was like, yo, if you didn't get a chance to do like the case with or anything else, you were basically fucked. And again, I never got a chance to do that, so trying to attain that version of Asha was hella hard to do. So honestly, I didn't really even get a chance to I didn't really get a chance to play like a full Asha deck until like the Zoo Nation booster came out. Because by that particular time, I actually did have like the funds to make like a full Neo Nectar deck. So sadly, again, I didn't really get a chance to explore Neo Nectars as much as I did, or explore like Asha as much as I did. So I usually just stuck with Musketeers, and that was that because they're a lot cheaper and everything else. But I still like them regardless. I like the art style too, and I did like the simple fact that Musketeers didn't really need the same card name on the field in order for like it to go off. They didn't get a chance to bloom, sadly, though, but it did. That was pretty much a decent substitute. So, with that being said, let's move on. We have four down, two more to go. Next one is Great Nature. I'm not gonna lie. I would be lying if I said part of the reason why I wanted the Great Nature wasn't because of the furries. I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to bland out and bluntly say it. So, believe it or not, Great Natures was legitimately the first deck I got into. This was part of this was because when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh at the time, the deck that I was running was the Raccoon deck, the Tanuki one that used all like the grade 2 or lower beast monsters and whatnot. I was using that particular deck, and seeing that Great Natures was kind of similar in a way, like not only art wise though, but like in playability wise as well. I mean, of course I had to do that. So basically, what happened was I got like a bunch of commons and rares and everything else, and decided to just like fix this deck up, which was actually pretty cool. Um, it sucked. Don't get me wrong. Like the Hamsukes was doing all the work, and then there was a couple of other units here and there that was doing the work. And let's be real, the PGs was stupid to find. Like I remember like cable sheets being like 17-20 bucks a piece. That was hard as hell to find for a decent price. I even remember like there wasn't that much great nature cards either. And it got to a point where like the hill triggers are like $5 a piece. I was like, how the hell is there a $5 common hill trigger? What the fuck? But anyway, of course, like it took me a long time to get the binocular tigers. I had to wait legitimately until the reprint to come out in order to get all that, and I had to slowly fix up the deck. And it's weird. Um, according to a couple of my friends, they said that my Great Nature deck was like my best deck, which I'm still trying to figure out like how in the hell is that possible, but still. um I use basically most of the Great Nature stuff that was like available. The only one I didn't really use was Loxodon because nobody really had the grade 3, and I didn't think there was really no point in trying to find it online either, seeing that it wasn't like the main one that was like being played. But outside of that, I basically played other every other version of Great Nature, like Big Belly, Chatnor, Researcher Fox, like the whole Legions and everything else like that. I even tried the Tiger Legions for a while. Like they really weren't that great though, but it was still pretty fun to play regardless. Um, I still have Isabel. Isabel's pretty cool to play with, and Leopold and all the other stuff. But honestly, if I had to choose my most favorite grade 3 from Great Nature, it definitely will be Chatnor. I'm gonna be real with you on that. I'm definitely waiting for the day Chatnor comes back to standard format and everything else to see what effect she has and all this other stuff. Cause I did so many builds around Chatnor, it's ridiculous. I was using the Chat Fox build. I was using the Ashura build. I even was using like when before like Big Belly got like his second and third form. I was actually doing like Big Belly like Chatnor and whatnot. Like I know it sounds stupid and I know it sounds like it doesn't work. And I will admit it was like one of my lesser fun builds though, but it's still pretty decent. I even tried the whole honorary professor thing, which is very cheesy, but I still like it regardless. I still think it's pretty funny regardless, I'm not gonna lie. Especially like using Chat Savage and I forgot what the other one's name is though, but using all of that was just it was a pretty good experience. If I had to choose my most favorite build, it had to be the Ashura build because I actually miss Ashura too. Don't get me wrong, Ashura was amazing. I'm hoping that they also print Ashura in there too, because at that particular point, I was just trying to find like every like cat-based character in Great Nature that I can find, just to make like a whole cat deck, which was pretty funny. So it had like Compass Lion, it had Binoculars Tiger, it had Cran Tiger, and it was funny because like it all you also have Mike's of Raboro, which was search for all the grade threes and whatnot, and it was like maybe Cold Bill Duckling, the PGs of course, and a couple of other stuff that wasn't really like cat related was in there though, but still it worked for some reason. I think at the moment I actually do want to see if Chatnor could work with the new Leopold, with the V Series Leopold. I actually want to try that out and see like if it can work in premium format or something like that. Because if it can, I am definitely down to try that out. Like I'm not gonna lie. But outside of that, we down to the last clan, and you guys already know what it is. Megacolony. Now you're kind of wondering why Megacolony is my most favorite clan. Why is it that I choose Megacolony over every other clan? Because I felt like, in my personal opinion, Megacolony stood out. And here's what I mean by standing out. For one, it has a mechanic that no other clan definitely has, which is the stun thing. The stun mechanic, which allows you to prevent your opponent's rear guards and sometimes vanguards from standing, which was actually pretty cool. It wasn't completely foolproof, but it did work in a lot of occasions, because now you're giving your opponent an ultimatum of either they're going to replace the unit just so they can restand, or they have to waste an effect just to restand their unit, which honestly was an interesting ultimatum. It sucked when they had like the upper hand of it still, and it kind of felt like I wasted all of it, but I'm just satisfied for the fact that you have to take all the extra steps just to play the game. So that's what I kind of liked about this particular deck, like this control deck in general, was just it forced your opponent to take extra steps just to play the game. And honestly, I liked it. Now, is it as foolproof control like Link Joker? Not really. I understand that Link Joker is supposed to be like created as the ultimate control deck, which is understandable. But I did like the properties that Megacolony presented, despite Bushiroad not really liking the clan. Like, let's be real, in the whole G era, they only got support 3 times. That was Soul Strike, the Technical Booster 2, and the Zoo Booster. Those are the only times Megacolony got support out of that whole G era. Out of the whole 3 years it existed. And the sad thing was they were so far apart, it was kind of nearly pointless to use it in general, but I still use the clan regardless because I like it that much. But now that we have this mill mechanic, I'm even a lot more excited to use it now because I'm definitely waiting to see how powerful that stride is going to be as far as milling your opponent is going to be. Now, if they did all of that, like for example, like that Narukami one, where they made it to where it'll still be able to use like all the V era stuff, especially like Vanquisher, and also seeing how Murakumo is doing the same thing where you're allowed to use Hyuga during during like premium format, then I'm guessing they're going to do something where they're going to allow you to use Gun and Kaleo during during premium format without wasting that triple drive. So, or impossible quad drive. So when you put all of that into consideration, you know, I'm actually hoping that the start is going to be like that good. But regardless if it's going to be that good or not, I'm still going to use it anyway. So now we got this whole thing with the stun. We got this whole thing with the stun mechanic and the mill mechanic and everything else like that. So now I'm guessing everybody trying to figure out what my favorite grade 3 is, which again is kind of self-explanatory. It's evil. It's the Giraffe series. More likely Sand Giraffe. It used to be Evil Armor General Giraffe though, but I'm starting to like Sand Giraffe a little bit more because it gave a better alternatum. I feel like Sand Giraffe should have been something that we should have seen more cards do. So for a prime example, like Sand Giraffe has this ability where he stuns one of the units, but if my opponent retires that unit within the next turn, rather it's in rearguard circle or guardian circle, they have to force retire another unit. Now, so of course this isn't completely foolproof, where they can just have one unit on the field though, but you also got to remember that unit that they call also has to get retired because of the Sand Giraffe effect. So now you're not only trying to figure out if you're trying to if you want to replace the unit just to have like a standing and attacking rear guard, but now you also have this thing where if you do that, you still have to sacrifice, one of your units regardless anyway. Not to mention, seeing that there's more than one ability that allows you to stun your opponent's Vanguard, it even works a lot more with the Vanguard because let's be real, um, they can't rewrite grade 4, so once they get to grade 4, they're pretty screwed. And sometimes there's like a chance that they never have a grade 3 in hand. So when you put all that into consideration, and the fact that whatever stride they go into will be in the same position as the Vanguard, you put your opponent in a very sticky situation, which is honestly something I aim for when it comes to this particular clan. But with that being said, that is all of the 6 clans that I normally use. You got Murakumo, Nubatama, Tachikaze, Neo Nectar, Great Nature, and Megacolony. Next week, we're going to go over the clans that I wanted to play but never really got a chance to. So for now, my name is Mr. Zoo Nation, aka Savage Armadillo Giraffe. Thank you for watching, and this has been the Megacolony Trap House.